future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Welcome to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo, Dr. Shirley and medium Kellee White.
Two perspectives, one world.
This is Both Sides Now.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Both Sides Now. I'm Dr. Shirley.
I'm medium, Kellee White.
And we have a fantastic guest today.
Woohoo!
So I'm just going to go ahead and announce you. Rolonda Watts is here.
Yay!
So nice to be here. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're here. Now, you have done everything, right? So you are a journalist at heart, right? I mean, that was your education.
Right. I was trained at Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Was an investigative news reporter in New York City for many years, an anchor woman for many years, Inside Edition, ABC in New York City, NBC in New York City, New Jersey Network.
Wow.
A lot. I remember watching you.
Good.
Rolonda
I do
Watts
too.
Show. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember it. Yeah.
And even when I did my talk show, the Rolonda Show, we were still very news oriented. Like we were
Yeah.
covering OJ 22 years ago. It's hard to believe it.
hard to believe.
But we were the only talk show that had a seat in the courtroom. And so now people are going on YouTube and looking at all of my old shows from 22 years ago when we were covering
right.
OJ, and it's like it was just yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
No, I remember watching that show. It was a fantastic show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now you're here, and now you're venturing into other areas.
Right.
Yeah.
When I finished my talk show, I wanted to tell stories in a different way. So I came out here. Always had a love for theater and acting and writing and producing. So I've been writing and producing and acting, doing a lot of sitcoms and dramas, a lot of movies. I do a lot of voice work. I've been the voice of the Judge Joe Brown show for many years. It's Joe time.
Oh,
now
that's
I'm
so
the voice of Divorce Court on Divorce Court Today. And you can hear. And I'm also the voice of Professor Wiseman on Curious George. And for those of you who are gamers, if you're into the gaming thing, now I don't know much about gaming, but I'm
neither.
the new warrior priestess on the League of Legends.
That's hilarious.
Her name is Aloe. And so, yeah, I'm a badass on the games, and I didn't even know.
That is so funny. Oh, my gosh. Wow. Well, you have a very distinctive voice.
Thank
you have a
Yeah,
great voice.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
And now you're joining the author team, too,
Yes.
with your book.
It is
which
something
we have.
this is something I've always wanted to do, and that is write a novel and just have a book, for goodness sakes, and be called an author. And now I'm a novelist, an author, and I'm really excited about Destiny Lingers. It's been a lifelong, arduous journey, a labor of love, but it's here, and I'm happy about it.
That is
Wow.
so exciting. Tell us a little bit. Well, what inspired you? You said you always wanted to write.
Right. Well, I've always been a writer, and I just I tell you what inspired this particular story, and the book will be on store shelves, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Kindle, all of them on Tuesday, March the 15th.
The Ides of March.
Ides of March. And then on the 16th, we're having the book signing party if you're in L.A.
Yes.
at Chevalier's Books on Larchmont.
Okay, what time is that going to be?
That's going to be at 7 p.m.
7
p.m. on Wednesday. On Wednesday.
Okay, so please join us if you can go.
Yeah, Chevalier's Books, and it's going to be just great, and it's going to be a great group of people there also.
Yeah.
But anyway, this whole book got inspired. I used to spend my summers on a little island called Topsail Island. My grandparents founded the first black beachfront area on that island back in 1948.
Wow.
And it was the first time blacks were ever allowed on the beach in the state of North Carolina. And so my grandparents, along with 9 other families, fought very hard for this property in this area. And it's a place I grew up and have been going generation after generation. Well, in 1996, on July 12th, my birthday, Hurricane Bertha slammed into this island, and I was one of 11 people who refused to leave. Dumb me. But if you are ever told to evacuate the island, get your butt off that island. Don't do what I did. But I stayed on the island, survived this hurricane.
Now, how come you wanted to stay on the island, just out of curiosity?
I felt, I was going through a lot in my life, and I felt like I had no place else to go. And it was my birthday, and my thing was, hey, you could send the trucks here and I could do a live shot from Inside Edition. So went into total beast mode for journalism.
Yeah.
I can report live right here from my porch. And by the time, and it was also my birthday. And I also had this femme fatale thing. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die here anyway. I'll be buried. Save everyone a trip. I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, I ended up during the hurricane. So when the hurricane was over, we could not leave the house. The police chief had to come and pick us up and take us to the Red Cross. I ate at the Red Cross for 3 days. Had no idea the Red Cross served collard greens, but I'm letting you know they do.
Oh my God, I like that.
So I ate there, but the police chief and I would talk going back and forth, and we talked about how much we loved Topsail Island, how we'd both grown up there. We were the same age. We talked about the same fishing holes and the same crab places, and I was like, how do I not know you? And then it hit us because of segregation. We didn't know each other.
Oh, my goodness.
That we had lived at a time when I think I'm 56, so I'm one of the last generations that remembers the Jim Crow laws.
Right.
And I remember, that back in that day, we couldn't play with each other. It was just a very racist area in North Carolina, and blacks and white children would hide to play with each other under the marshes. And I thought, what would happen if these children might have had love for each other and they went on their separate ways? Time moves on, but destiny lingers. And what would happen if they were thrown back together? So I took a lot of pieces of my own life and what is a creative nonfiction, if you will, even though it's classified as a fiction and as a romance, contemporary romance series. I came up with this idea that here's this investigative news reporter, Destiny. She's covered every story in New York City except her own life until she discovers this long strand of red hair stretched across her husband's bed pillow. It's a third one she's found in as many weeks, and the only person she knows with bright red hair is her best friend, Eve. That one strand of red hair unravels this whole story of deceit, and just when she's about to confront her husband, she's thrust into a hostage situation.
Wow.
All of this, of course, has total emotional trauma on her. So she goes back to this little island, Topsail Island, North Carolina, to get her head back together, which I did for so many years.
Yeah.
And there she meets the police chief.
Oh my
And he has an
gosh.
uncanny familiarity. And come to find out, he was the little boy she was in love with but couldn't be together because of the Jim Crow and segregation laws. But time moves on and destiny lingers. What would you do at a second chance at your first love?
Wow.
What a concept.
It is. I
Wow.
mean, it's just.
And I've got hurricanes for you. I redo the whole hurricane. You've got hostage situations. So guys will love it too. And I have some great sex scenes. I want you to know.
Oh, lovely.
Want you to
Okay,
know. There's a little
okay.
erotica going on in there.
I love
I
it.
see a movie.
The 50 Shades of Rolonda.
Right. It's a little bit of everything, huh?
Right.
Wow. That is, I mean, I can't wait to read it. I mean, that sounds
Well,
so intriguing, but also kind of seductive, like to want you, to read it and find out it's amazing.
Yeah, I hope you miss your subway stop.
Right. That's
But I
hilarious.
wrote it so that it's a quick read. It's full of energy. It's a lot of tension, a lot of suspense, and a lot of you want her to get that husband back, and a lot of it you're going to be rooting for Destiny. And I think you're going to really relate to the characters. I was so blessed to have Dr. Maya Angelou write and endorse the book. It's right on the cover.
Wow.
And she really fell for the character, she said. And she said she didn't want it to end. And she says, come on, continue. And I think because of her and her great spirit around me,
absolutely.
that I'm going to continue it as a series. Because I even want to know what's going to happen to Destiny and Chase. And I have to tell you, I admit, I am in love with Chase. I'm in love with my main guy, the Adonis on the beach. I'm in love with him.
That is so funny.
Tell us about your connection with Maya Angelou. How did that transpire?
Well, my mother was an associate dean at Wake Forest University, and my Auntie Maya's best friend, a woman, Dr. Dolly McPherson, was head of the English department, and they were looking for a professor to come, a visiting professor. And so they thought of Dr. Maya Angelou and brought her into the school. Well, Dr. Maya Angelou fell in love with the school. Wake Forest fell in love with her, and she was there tenured forever and ever and ever as a visiting and adjunct professor. But she lived in Winston-Salem, a stone's throw from my house. and she was my parents' best friend. And I got the benefit of that by being her niece. And she was always there. And yes, I spent 35 years of Thanksgivings and Easters and all of that with her, very significant times. But also, when I was going through tough times in life and I needed an auntie and a mother figure, she was there for me. So
Wow.
yeah.
This may have been one of the last books she read.
Yeah, I know it was one of the last endorsements she did.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long ago has she?
It's been 2 years now.
2 years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And so she wrote that, and my father passed a year before her. And so the book is dedicated to my father and my grandparents who founded Ocean City on Topsail Island, and my Aunt Flo, who is Aunt Joy in the book, who was just such a major force for me. So I think our elders have so much to say about shaping our lives.
Oh, they do.
And to think what they went through before we could go through what we're going through. And I look at young people today, and 15% of the couples in America are interracial. And people don't know it wasn't that long ago. It was against the law. And so love endures. And I think that's what the story of Destiny Lingers is about, that love endures even time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it is. It's, what is it? I think we talked about it last week, where it's love or fear are the two places that we come from. And yeah, it's so powerful, powerful. But to think, I mean, it makes me so angry to think that against the law to date a human being. I mean, that's just,
it was
baffles
against
me.
the
It
law to
baffles
put
me.
your foot in the ocean if you were in North Carolina and your foot was of color. It was against the law
you
for you.
kidding me?
Yes, before 1948, blacks weren't allowed on the beaches of North Carolina until my grandparents and 9 other people changed that with Topsail Island and the black section, Ocean City. The irony of it was that Topsail Island is, if you imagine this, a bird's eye view, it looks like a cigarette. It's 26 miles long, a quarter of a mile wide. And when the land was established, the whites lived on one side and the blacks lived on the other. But then there were a group of very poor whites who serviced the island a lot, and they lived in trailer park. And the whites, the wealthy whites, wouldn't let them live down there in the trailers. So they lived next to these well-to-do, mostly attorneys and doctors who established the black resort area. And the trailer park was very close. So it was also about classism. I have one line in the book that says, he couldn't play with me because I was black. I couldn't play with him because he was poor. Wow. So classism and racism are as much of a deterrent to our love and relationships a lot of time, particularly in this country, as anything else. And it's just taking a close look at those things and also watching both of their parents, both Destiny and Chase's parents came from that old school of distrust and the isms that afflict so many human beings. But they made a decision as young people that they weren't going to continue that. They weren't going to be those people anymore. So I think it just shows a transition in relations and just that love endures, that love keeps it going.
And also how you can break kind of those cycles of that thinking, because it is passed on through generations.
Absolutely.
And once you make a decision, okay, that's not how I want to think anymore, then you stop passing it on, and then all of a sudden you see the change.
Absolutely. And what they both admit was that both of their parents were very racist and very classist, and they saw the ills in that, and the detriment that the detriment it had done to their lives because of this outside thinking. But it's also the love for the island. That was the other thing that I wanted to capture, that I spent all of my summers there. I've got people who read the novel and they say, I'm booking a trip to Topsail Island. I've got to go see this place. And it's just as magical. I mean, it's one of the things I'm really proud about North Carolina is we did not bastardize our beaches. We don't have roller coasters and billboards and all that stuff up there. I mean, we really have a great respect for the pelicans that fly in Top Gun formation, and the turtles, the sea turtles that lay their eggs, and we respect the nature down there. So
Sounds
it's very
lovely.
In fact, Topsail Island is a very special place because it was where the military used the island before they sold it to the public as a place to test rocket missiles, and it's where the Wright brothers, up in the Outer Banks, that whole area, And it's also where the Bumblebee Troop was formed. The story is that there was a soldier sitting out there on the beach, and the bumblebee was bumbling right in front of him. And he said, my God, how in the world do you fly? Now, we know the bumblebee can fly because he doesn't know he can't. But, but he also looked at the aerodynamics and created the Bumblebee Fleet, which was the fleet of airplanes that saved us in the World War because it got the tanks over. Because it was shaped like a bumblebee, and those bumbling aircraft got the tanks over to Germany to help us win the war. So all of that creation, all of that thought came also down there on Topsail Island. So it has a tremendous amount of history, particularly in flight and rocket missiles and the military, and then, of course, in race relations as well.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Now, how was it that your grandparents changed the laws there?
Well, they integrated basically. What happened? The story goes that there was the originating family there were the Chestnuts, and they were brothers that ran a what do you call it? Not a Model T shop, but they fixed people's cars. They fixed men's cars, and that was the one place where black men and white men could go and be together because they took their cars to the same place they're going to fix. And the Chestnuts had friends that were white, and they dreamed of their sons one day playing on the beach together. They watched them playing in the back of the yard out there in the where they were servicing cars, and dreamed. And we can only imagine that they dreamed of a chance where their kids could play together. And the white man came, he was a farming family, and came to Mr. Chestnut and said, they're going to open up this land from the military and sell it to the public. Why don't you come buy some land? He was like, come on, man, we can't buy land. The Jim Crow laws, they're not going to let us do that. So they made a deal. I'll buy the land, you buy it from me. Oh. And he bought 10 acres. My grandfather bought one. My grandfather and grandmother bought 1 acre, and 9 other families bought the other acres. And that's how they started that community. Wow. So it was already the integrate. My grandparents used to always say, well, you're all the same color in the dark. So when a hurricane hits, and that's when we saw families pull together. We lost a house on Topsail Island. Tranquility, our first house, was lost in 1950. It was Hurricane Hazel. No, I actually think it was 1954. It was Hurricane Hazel. And it totally flattened the island. And the only way we knew where to rebuild is because a quilt my grandmother had made was wrapped around a water pipe. And we rebuilt there. But that was when people came together, that all of the racism and the classism and the separation was about building our island back together, and people came together. So the old settlers, everybody knows everybody, and it's that history that I tried to really capture in this book. It's also a story about tremendous pain and not giving up on love and giving up on people. Destiny, when you meet Garrett, her husband, you are going to want to jump through this book and strangle this man. He is the biggest creep you have ever met. You are going to want. But what happens to him? It all works out, ladies. It all works out. It all works out. But he is such a creep, and I will admit that he's based on some of the worst guys I've ever known in my life.
I was going to say, it's probably a compilation of
the biggest creeps. Yeah. He's that guy. He is that guy. And but she doesn't give up. And I think that having gone through being married at a very young age and going through so many bouts of betrayal myself, I kind of lived through the pain that Destiny goes through. Yeah. And also, I lived through Destiny and hoping that I too will find my real chase in life.
Right.
So it's
when you write something like that from your own feelings, how do you push through? How do you find the fortitude to push through when it can be very upsetting?
You cry right through it. There were times I was boohooing, typing. Just typing through the tears. And just really feeling that pain. But you just push through it because it's healing. And it's, Auntie Maya used to always say, just tell the truth, baby. You don't have to tell everything, but tell the truth. And I think the truth of the pain of that. I think everybody knows the truth of the story. Yeah, you got cheated on. but nobody knows what you were going through
Right.
when you felt by yourself. And just that internal dialogue is, I think, what really helped me with the novel. You know, and as a journalist, it's who, what, when, where, why. It's the facts, miss, nothing but the facts.
Right.
But as a novelist, it's, oh no, but what that fact made me feel like, and what I thought about at
it's
that
the
moment, and
details.
the details,
Yeah.
and the plunging and the turning of the, you know.
Yeah.
So it was, and there are times I go back and read it and I still cry because of the one I left in the book, because I got to leave that part of myself in the book.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
Well, and that's what makes it, I think, relatable, is if you put your experience of it, then that's the part that's relatable, I think, to everybody. When you read a book, you can tell, if the person, had either gone through something similar or something, because it's in those details.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's
Some of them can be so subtle.
I think there's all a moment when we felt like curling up in a ball in the bathroom and turning in the bathtub and closing the shower and just acting like you're in the fetal, just disappearing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think people can relate to that, and also the joy and the excitement of knowing when something is right and possible.
Yeah.
And also getting through something. Actually, I mean, everybody's been betrayed. Most people, anyway, have had those kind of experiences and coming through it. And that, I mean, what an incredible story.
Yeah.
About how you come through this, or how the character comes through this.
Yeah, I think it's. I hope it gives healing to others and hope.
Oh, I'm sure.
Healing and hope.
will.
That's
Yeah.
a good combination.
The best
well,
combination.
because when we're going through it, we forget that we will get through it.
Exactly.
And sometimes some people who've gone through a lot won't, stay very isolated and won't allow themselves to experience anything because they're so afraid of possibly going through the pain.
That's right.
And so it's these kind of books like this are wonderful to show, you can get through it.
Yeah,
You do
it's
survive. People do survive.
exactly, because it's the whole thing of just, and I think when you're blindsided by something, so it's like cheating. Your husband's not only cheating on you, but cheating on you with your best friend, and then all the other stuff. It's the worst. But you can get through that too.
Yeah.
People do it every
It's
day.
almost a cliche, but it really does happen.
I was going to say, it happens more often than we think.
Yeah.
I'm seeing in my practice that happened with her parents. So it's unfortunately more common than we would think. And
Yeah.
it's trust on so many different levels.
Yeah, it's the trust, it's the distrust, the betrayal, the how could you possibly have done? It's devastating.
It is
Traumatic,
devastating.
but then you move on.
I actually have somebody that this happened to, and she ended up moving to North Carolina.
Really?
Of all places.
See?
Oh my
There you
God,
go.
I just
I
saw
may move
that.
back to North Carolina.
Yes. And she went for healing there.
Yeah.
She really found a community, and it was very healing for her. It's been very healing.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
That is so
That's nice to
interesting.
know.
Well, it sounds, the way that you describe that island, it sounds like there's something there, some kind of energy there. It's how wonderful for this guy to say, I'll buy the properties and you guys buy it from me, and how that changed, how that shifted.
Yeah, I think there's all kinds of stories like that. We so often focus on the horrible, hung in the middle of the night in the woods and dragged out and shot by cop stories, that we forget that there's so many stories that in face of the adversities that we have faced as this nation, that we have still worked together as good people. Good people do good things, and good people come together, and that's what changes the tide.
Right,
When people stand up and say, no, we support each other.
Yeah. I'm glad that you're saying that, because you're absolutely right. So many times, all we're focused on, or even the media, just shows the scandalous stuff, and I guess people want to watch that, but I know that there is, a huge, a lot of us that want to watch the other side too, that feel good. So you wouldn't it be great if at the end of the news or something like that, you would walk away feeling good and not just kind of this
Torn.
Right.
And agitated.
tightness,
Yeah.
because it is, that changes the mindset and the mind frame of hearing about the good stuff and how people do help each other. And
Sure. And I think that we would be remiss not to think that we have to struggle a little bit with the stories we hear, because they're not always pretty, but always keeping in mind that at the end of that story, Well, crap makes gardens grow, is what I say. We couldn't
Love
have
that.
pretty roses without a bunch of manure thrown all on the roots. So I think that kind of helps us look at our nation in a way.
funny.
That, you have to go through the tough times. And diamonds are made from pressure. There isn't anything that is beautiful that didn't come from scorn and scorching and pain.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's such valuable lessons, to be learned from the pain that we go through, and it's trying to figure out, what that is.
Well, it's how our souls
other
grow.
side,
It's
yeah.
what I've always said. I mean, the struggle, we get through it. We struggle and we get through it.
That's right.
And that's how we grow, and that's how we provide wisdom to people, really, and to know that the soul goes on and we continue on.
That's right.
And there are good things in life that happen. Your book is one of them.
Thank you. Thank
Very
you.
exciting.
I think you're gonna really like
I
it.
can't wait.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna start it tonight.
No,
I'm really
it's-
excited. And it's gonna be downloaded when?
It's
when do we
going
get
to be
download it?
March 15th,
Okay.
Tuesday, this coming Tuesday.
Between
That's
two eclipses. Between two eclipses.
I hear that's great, Kelly.
Great. It's great.
And you're going to be able to pick up the book on Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and also you can go right now to get you an early copy. You can go right now over to Chevalier's Books on Larchmont Boulevard, on Larchmont Village, and pick up one. They've got, I tell you, I went in there today, and the book is up on the shelves. They're going to have the poster in
that's
the window.
exciting.
And I'm so
Wow.
excited.
Exciting is
It's
that?
beginning.
Great.
It's beginning. It's a whole new ball game for me. So, and that's the other thing that I want to talk about too. Is not being afraid to try something new.
Yeah.
And really stepping out there. And as my Auntie Maya always said, don't die with your story still inside of you.
Oh, that is
So
so true.
many of us have that book they
Wow.
want to write. And this started off being my friends would take a book to read to the beach, and I would take a yellow pad and a pen to write one. And after a while, after 100 pages, and I'd have my friends read it, and they'd say, like, you've got a book here. This is great. What's going to happen? So I went to UCLA. I took some workshops. I had other writers read it. And they were like, I want to know what's going to happen. And just that little bit encouragement here and there. Next thing I know, I've got a book at Barnes & Noble. And if I can do it, and let me tell you, it wasn't overnight. It took a good, strong 10 years. The last 5 years, took it as a job. And it's hard work. I don't know how people do it who have 10 kids and husbands and jobs. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
But if you have a story, you've got to tell it. And your characters aren't going to let you go. So you're going to have to get your butt in the chair and tell it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you find that you would write every day? I mean, what was your process?
Toward the end there, I pretty much tried to write every day. And then there were days I tried to at least get, I would say 3 pages. Just give me 3 pages today. Of course, you start 3 pages, 10 pages later, once you get into it, and just finding the rhythm. I remember I asked Jackie Collins, she came on my show back in the 90s, and I
Wow.
said, Jackie Collins, you have no idea. I said, I am so in love with you. I want to be you. And I said, you're the only person I'm going to tell I really want to write a novel, which was so crazy to say if you're a journalist. Most journalists don't write novels. And she said, well, darling, just write a page every single day. And at the end of the year, you'll have 365 pages in a book. And I went, that sounds simple. But if you really think about it,
That is
Wow.
so
one
true.
page a day.
Wow.
And in a year, you have a book.
Wow. That
Yeah.
makes it,
Just
that
went
kind of goes, whoop, and
Boom.
makes it
All right.
so-
Boom. There's your book.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, she
That
made it
is-
sound so logical. And I was just thinking, like, yeah. And I'm so happy that before she died, I got a chance to tell her thank you.
Oh,
I
you
did it.
did.
Yeah. So that was really exciting.
wonderful. Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
it's just
exciting.
Whole nother
Oh
thing.
my God. Who are the
Yeah.
women, other than Maya Angelou, that you really look up to, that you've looked up to in your life?
Oh gosh, my mom, as difficult as she was, I still look up to her. I was really blessed to have people I looked up to who weren't necessarily big names. I did look up to Cicely Tyson. She was Maya Angelou's best friend, Dr. Maya Angelou's best friend. So I got a chance to meet her. But there's so many other women that I look up to, my elders, that you may not know their names. They may not be famous names, but they were the teacher who heard somebody call me stupid and feared I would believe it because I wasn't great in math. And so she sat me down in her kitchen every Tuesday and Thursday, and we worked out those problems.
Wow.
Now today I run Wattsworks Productions, and I'm doing that profit and loss, and I'm thinking about, lady, thank you for helping me learn how to add and subtract. But it's just people who believed in me, my teachers who said, you have a lot of energy. I don't know what you're going to do with all that energy, but we trust you're going to do something good. People who made me accountable, So I grew up in a small town where everybody knew everybody, and we all raised each other's children, and that's really, I was raised by my community, and that I'd have to say, my teachers and my community.
Yeah. It's so fascinating how one person can make such a difference in somebody's life, just by saying something either encouraging or, and I hear it all the time with my patients, when they say, I'll never forget the day my teacher said XYZ, or the neighbor, or even the mailman, just one encouraging word. Yeah.
In fact, in Destiny Lingers, Aunt Joy is in there. And Aunt Joy is modeled after my Aunt Flo, who was, I spent my summers at the beach with her every summer. And she was the most eccentric woman. She was a ballerina back in the 20s when they didn't even believe black folks could do ballet.
Wow.
She was like, she went to Hampton University. She went to Columbia University back in the day, got her master's degree. She worked for the Marines. She was just an amazing woman. But we had such a close relationship. She was like, kiddo, you can do anything. She was a broad. She never got married. She said, I never want anybody telling me what to do, which was a Renaissance woman for her. Completely Renaissance.
Yeah.
And she ran that beach house and did her thing. And I have heard people who've read the book say, I am an auntie now, and I want to be an Aunt Joy for my little destinies. And I'm like, so they're relating to the relationships, not just between the lovers, but just the importance of having somebody to say, something. She said, and Aunt Joy is the one who tells Destiny, listen, in our day, we couldn't do this, but I know that boy loves you. And your parents told me to never let you see him again. But you know what? You're grown now, and you can do what you want, and I can do what I want. You make friends with that man. And she's that spunky aunt who says, you go for that chance. You go for that second chance. And we'll see what happens with that.
Wow. I can't wait. Wow. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
So exciting.
I'm excited about it. It's a new day.
Absolutely.
And I can't thank you guys enough for your support.
Oh, sure. We're so happy to have you and to be one of the, one of the first to launch this.
You are like the first up here.
We?
You're like
First.
You and your book
up here. It's going to be a success.
Yes.
I really believe it will be.
Yes.
Thank you. And that means a lot coming from you, Kelly.
Right?
Talk to some people up there. Talk to some people up there.
She says something, you know.
I know.
I
Yeah.
know. And I also think it goes into a movie, too.
Yes.
Or some form of that.
Yeah, I'm working on the screenplay. That's my thing.
Great.
I'm challenging myself. It could have always been a movie because I've just seen it so linear in my head. But I challenge myself. I don't know many journalists who've become novelists who've turned screenplay writer too. So I want to be like Beyonce of literature, triple threat.
That's right. You are the Beyonce
of literature.
That is so funny. Well, I mean, I see it just based on what you've said. I see it kind of as powerful as like The Notebook.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that.
Really?
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, I feel a lot of I like the pacing and the genteelness of his stories of Nicholas Sparks. And my book is very much like that kind of genre of his, that subtle, deep love story with the great backstory. And
Yeah.
You know who also writes about an island is Pat Conroy, who just passed away.
Yeah.
He also writes about an island, and I think it's South Carolina, though. Is it North Carolina?
North Carolina. It's usually South
I think it's
Carolina
South
people,
Carolina.
right? Now, Nights in Rodanthe is another one that I believe was Nicholas Sparks, and that's North Carolina, I believe. But
something about that energy of that place.
It must be, yeah.
Well, it's a very special place.
Do you still go there?
Place. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I ended up owning my own home there. And then when I moved to California, and I was worried about every hurricane, my father said, you know what your problem is? I said, what? He goes, you're not being Pacific. And my daddy was very country. And I said, Daddy, the word is specific. And he says, no, I mean Pacific. He said, you're the one who moved to California. You want a beach house? Get one on Pacific. Stop worrying about all the Atlantic storms and stuff. But I still go back. In fact, I was just back there when I finished up the book. When I turned in the book, that's the first place I went was down to Topsail.
Wow.
And, Topsail Island got its name, and we say Topsail. It's spelled Topsail, but we say Topsail. That's how we know if you're from there.
Oh.
But it was, the word was that Blackbeard used to hide out back there with the Native Americans. And if the European sailors were coming around the bend and they saw his skull and crossbones, the pirate thing, they'd say, turn around, Blackbeard's there, turn your sails back around. So they called it Topsail Island, because you would be looking for the skull and the crossbones at the top of his sail to see if he was hiding back there to come and pillage your ship.
Oh, you're kidding.
So
that's interesting.
So there's a lot of great stories.
Yeah,
there's
a lot of
great
legends.
history. And I think I'm going to do wonders for this little island.
I
a
think
lot of
so
people visiting.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
well,
a-
I'm sure they have, vacation homes, and you can go and rent a
absolutely.
house for a week and that kind of thing, right?
Airbnb.
Yeah.
Go to Airbnb.
Yeah.
A lot of
I
good
bet you
riddles.
are going to do a lot for that island.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people are going to go visit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How exciting. Yeah. This is an exciting time.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Are you planning a second book after
Yes, I
this?
am. I think that, I have a strong detective and a strong journalist who are very much in love and want to rebuild their island. And so we got to see what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can go off and, with those two as a premise, journalist and a cop, you can go off and they can have many adventures.
I see a murder mystery coming
Yeah,
out.
I know.
Anything like that,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, you had mentioned as part of your process that sometimes the information would or the characters would kind of tell you their story.
Yeah, I
you know?
have this one scene where Destiny has these, she hangs out with her 3 girlfriends, one of whom turns out to be the little affair lady. And
I like how you
The
said
redhead.
that.
with
yeah, the
long
redhead.
The affair lady.
The affair lady. And that was a nice way of saying something
It
else.
was, yes.
Where the
yes,
hoe
I love it.
So
Hilarious.
Destiny has come to the realization, she's put all the pieces together, because what happens is most of the time we realize there's an affair going on. We have had the signs for so long. And there comes a day where you cannot deny it anymore. And so it hits her. And so she breaks down and she tells her 2 friends. And then that was it. And I was writing, and that was it. I was done. I couldn't get anything else out. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen now. Where do I go with this story? And so one of my characters, who's a little meeker, Hope, goes, well, what are we going to do now? And I'm sitting there tapping my finger, and Kat jumps up and goes, get dressed to kill, ladies. We're going to Boston. Now, I've never been to Boston a day in my life, but these
my
characters take me to Boston, to the Ritz-Carlton, where one of the best scenes in the entire book takes place. It is the sexiest, most gripping scene ever. Remember, Kat wrote that scene. I just followed them along.
Wow.
And I just wrote what I saw and where they took me. And you're not going to believe this scene.
Wow.
Just remember, the closet in Boston.
The closet. Okay. But that's so interesting. I mean, I would think that it would be like acting. When you play a character, you start to think like that, and what would they say? And so that's kind of what you're saying that was part of the process.
Exactly.
When you wrote her character, what would she do? What would she say?
And there were times when I would stop writing for the day and the characters would not stop talking in my head.
Wow.
And they would get mad at me if I would not come and write. And Destiny had a story to tell. And there would be times I would just put it down for like weeks, and I could just feel my characters were really angry with me because they had to live. I know that sounds really weird, but they have a life of their own. And they will tell me what this sequel will be because they know their lives more than I do.
That is so interesting.
They really do.
Wasn't there a movie about that where it was like, I don't think it was Stranger Than Fiction or something, but it was a character in a book that came to life or something like that.
Yeah. Well, they
so
have
that's
flesh
kind
and
of
bones. I mean, you give a character just a name and a description and feelings and parents and lovers and sisters and friends and community, and all of a sudden you've got a person there who's living and breathing their own story.
Yeah.
And you put enough things around them that they relate to just living. You just follow their story after a while.
Yeah. That is so
You stop
interesting.
telling it, you just follow them.
Do you find that you have a favorite character?
I love Aunt Joy. I love Aunt Joy, and I am in love with Chase. I know that sounds. You are going to be like, Rolonda's a little weird. She got weird when she started writing novels.
No, because you've created Chase,
Yeah,
and
Chase
if we
is,
could create,
I'm in love
right.
with him. He
is
is just
great.
such a Southern gentleman, and he's so strong, and he uses his brain, and he just loves and cares for people. He's almost corny, but he's just that guy that you want your son to be, that you want,
Yeah.
He's just the guy, that guy, and he's not perfect, but he's just so charming. He's just a real Southern charming boy.
So this is what we're going to do. We'll make a pact now.
We're going to find Chase.
You will come back, right? You will come back when you have found Chase.
And I'm bringing him with me.
You'll bring one. Oh my God.
That's so funny. Let me tell you the weird thing. Was that you? I was at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Remember?
You told me.
I was at a restaurant, and this gorgeous young man walked up, and I think he said, "I like your hair" or something. And so, of course, me being the cougar that I am, immediately turned and said, "Thank you, young man." And he was just so good looking, and he looked like Chase on the cover of the book. And I said, with a little scruffy beard and the whole bit. And I said, "You know something? You look like my main character." And he said, "Is that like your main man?" I said, "What's your name?" He goes, "Chase."
Yeah.
I
Wow.
said, "You are kidding me, right?"
Wow.
He had the white T-shirt on, the jeans, the cowboy boots, the scruffy look. The girl over here is like, her eyes are blinking at this young lady. She's like, she's swooning and turning pink right here. Right? She's a young girl. You're going to love Chase. And and I was like, "You are Chase. You have an agent?"
And he's an actor.
And he's an actor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So the next thing is the fun thing is going to be who is going to play, who's going to play these roles. So they're in their 20s.
Okay.
So who's the hot one in the 20s? Who's the hot Kerry Washington in her 20s? Who's the hot McConaughey in his 20s? Who's the,
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
it's really exciting to think that way too. So we might have to have a little contest. I've been doing Goodreads giveaways for people to get free books and stuff.
Okay.
And having fun with my Facebook friends and just, really making it part of the community story. But it'll be fun to guess who could possibly be connected
How fun.
on film.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be a lot of fun.
That'll start a buzz. I mean,
Yeah,
really.
absolutely.
Wow.
Now, tell us, you have a website?
Yeah, you can go to Rolonda.com, and that's ROLONDA.com. Rolonda, not Rolanda.
Rolanda. It's Rolonda.
Rolonda.com and check it out. And you can go to Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com and Kindle. And the next year, we'll be working on the audio for you. I'll be reading the story to you at some point.
That's great.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
That's
that'll
great.
be coming. But the main thing is just get a copy and let me know what you think. Leave a review on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, wherever you leave it, or on my site, wherever you can.
Yeah.
But please tell your friends. And I'm also going to be in New York City on the end of April.
Okay.
I'm going to be in Washington, D.C., and Baltimore in March. I'll be down in North Carolina in May. And so we'll be doing the travel. I'll let you know. So, stay in contact with the website so you can see where we're going to be going.
I was going to say, the dates are going to be on your website.
Yeah, go to my website
Yeah.
and go to books or speaking, and just find out where we're going to be.
Now, I bet you that island is going to want you to do something there.
Yeah.
I hope so. I
I'm
hope they want.
sure.
Why don't they just give me a beach house and I'll hang out there
Right,
and just
exactly.
sign
You'll bring your
books and
friends.
yeah.
But that would be great to do something there.
Yeah,
to have an event
absolutely.
there.
In
Yeah.
fact, I mentioned one of the restaurants in there that I often go to in the main sale, and the owner of the main sale was, "We got to have your party here."
Oh.
So
Yeah.
that'll be
Such
fun.
support. How lovely.
Yeah, because when you go to the island, there's so many things you'll recognize and you'll know. But it's also just a beach community. I mean, if you're in the Jersey Shore, there's just a special life living at the beach.
Yeah.
And I wanted to really,
True.
Yeah. What a nice experience for you to
Yeah.
have grown up there and had those, every summer and something like when you go back.
yeah.
There's something just so special about
Magical.
it, I think. Isn't it
Yeah, it's
magical?
magical.
Yeah, it holds pieces of me that have more diapers washed off into that ocean from being a baby. Yeah, it was funny because
Yeah.
when I grew up there, I was swimming in 30 feet water with fish with teeth, and pools scared me because the water was too still. I just grew up
that
swimming in
is
the ocean. I
so
didn't know any better.
funny. Wow.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
I know better now.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
So funny. So thank you so much for joining us. We're so
Listen,
happy
so
to be
thrilled to meet
I'm
you.
a big fan of both of you, and I'm just so
thanks.
honored that you would have me in here and to help me kick it off.
Oh, absolutely. We
were
are honored
very
that we're helping you kick it off.
Yeah, the Virgin
Absolutely.
Voyage.
I can't wait to read it.
So
Absolutely.
everybody go to Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble, Destiny Lingers. It sounds like an amazing story. I'm going to read it.
Me too.
And
Good.
we will review it in our next in our next show. We will.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll be tuning in.
Tune in. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
All right.
you.
And thanks for watching, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo Dr. Shirley and Kellee White.
Two perspectives, one world.